Leading you guys astray all the time. Cheryl's leading you guys astray already.
She is.
Yeah. We can't train her to stay down. She likes to get up and sing. Anyways, I remember where Ecclesiastics is in the book this week, right after Proverbs. Ecclesiastics means the teacher, the professor. And we've, as I shared last week, we've deciphered that the most likely author of Ecclesiastics was King Solomon. Probably the richest and most powerful human being in his time. He's going through a crisis in his life, and last week he talked about labor, and this week he focuses on something else, which I'll now read to you. I said to myself, come now, I will make a test of pleasure, enjoy myself. But behold, this also was vanity. I said of laughter, it is mad, and of pleasure, what use is it? I searched with my mind how to cheer my body with wine, and my mind still guided me with wisdom, and how to lay hold on folly till I might see what was good. For the sons of men to do under the heavens during the few days of their life. I made great works. I built houses and planted vineyards for myself. I made myself gardens and parks and planted in them all kinds of fruit trees. I made myself pools from which to water the forest and growing trees. I bought male and female slaves and had slaves who were born in my house. I had also great passions for herbs and flocks more than any who had been before me in Jerusalem. I also gathered for myself silver and gold and treasures of kings and princesses. I got singers, both men and women, and many concubines, men's delight. So, I became great and surpassed all who were before me in Jerusalem. Also my wisdom remained with me. And whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. I kept my heart from no pleasure. For my heart found pleasure in all my toil. And this was my reward for all my toil. Then I considered all that my hands had done, and the toil I had spent in doing it, and behold, all was vanity, and a striving after the wind, and there was nothing to be gained under the sun. May God bless to us some understanding of this reading today. Now, like his father before him, and both his grandfathers, Dave Sofa joined the army as soon as he could, as a youth. He joined the Navy, and he went and he spent time in the Navy. And when he came out of the Navy, he did, like many men did, different odd jobs. When his mother died, he had a chance to go back to England, where his roots were, and to his grandparents' farm. And there they took him out on top of a hill. I forget the name of the town, but you can actually see England. And he was told that his parents would stand on this cliff during the bombings. They could see the lights and the bombs going off in England and how sad it was. And there's a bench just on the edge of this cliff overlooking the sea with a plaque on it. It was donated by Winston Churchill, who apparently would go up and do a lot of art there. And I think I've actually read that in the history books. So Dave has always, from the very beginning, had a passion for those who have served, the deceased and the living. In 2000, or let me back up a little more, Dave, when he came out, he was doing many things. And he got a call one day. He lived in Toronto, and his father was in the hospital in Winnipeg, and he wanted to see his son. So Dave jumped in the car, and he was heading for Winnipeg. And around Wawa, he was in a major auto accident. The car went over the cliff, he went through the windshield and landed in a bunch of trees, he said, that hovered over top of the water. How he was saved, he doesn't know. But he ended up with a broken back. And now he wouldn't be driving truck or transport anymore for a while. He was going to be in convalescence for some time. And it was during this time he picked up a pencil and some paper and maybe crayons, and he started to play with art. He said, by gosh, I'm pretty good at this. And so during his convalescence, he started to do art on motorcycles, and then cars, and then he was telling Cheryl and I, as we went to Toronto yesterday, he did the covers of many singers and artists throughout Canada, and he started to do bigger murals on commercial buses and tractor trailers, and so he made a real living doing art, and he got tired of living in Toronto, so he moved to Cambridge 35, 40 years ago. I forget what it was now. And like any of us, when we move somewhere, we're a little lonely and we don't have friends, and he was standing on the street when a gentleman came up and started to talk to him, and he said, I have just the thing for you, if you're interested. He said, I'm a kinsman, and I want to invite you out to our next supper, because that's what we are all about. You're going to get to meet a lot of new friends there, and we gather money and we give it to the community. So again, this gave Dave a chance to get involved in the community, make new friends, and that was important to him. But he always had a passion for the military, as I said, and one day in 2008, I think it was October, our local newspaper had on the front cover, front page, the photographs of 100 men and women who had died in the Afghanistan War. And he was disturbed, and like all of us, when we're disturbed, we do what we do best. So Dave went in the basement of his house, and he got oil paints, and he started to paint the portrait of each of these soldiers. Not overly knowing where he was going with it, but knowing that he wanted to do it in oil, he told me, because oil will last hundreds and hundreds of years, and he didn't want their memory just to be a fleeting thing and become another statistic. Well, he painted more and more portraits, and it got too big for his basement. So if you're driving out on the 401, that big Kinsman building there, they gave him a hall there, and I think your pamphlet says it's 10 feet high and 50 feet wide now. He's done over 143 portraits, I believe, and it's really begun to grow. He's had families come in to him from all over Canada, most because they were visiting Ontario or whatever, and he's heard more stories from parents and how important this is. And to steal a word from a colleague of mine, it's generating all kinds of energy, which you're all going to hear about. Matter of fact, Prince William's is coming down in May. It's Andrew in May, to open with the official inauguration, and this thing is going to go from coast to coast. But the one story I want to share with you was of an elderly gentleman in Newfoundland. He heard of the painting, and he knew that what was going on and how his son would be immortalized with so many of his colleagues, and it was so important to him, but he didn't think he could wait. He had cancer, terminal cancer. So this is so important to him that he flew from Newfoundland to Ontario just to see this portrait and what was happening. The friendship that Dave has put in, and he says, I've gotten to know these people personally. And what's happening and growing out, and how we can offer our friendship to the vets from Canada is going to be so simple, and yet it is so important, and I hope I get this message across before I'm done. But how simple is friendship? I have a friend in China I speak to 2-3 times a week. And I've never met her mom, I've never talked to her mom, I've never seen her mom. And yet her mom and I have become very close in our hearts. When I'm finished talking to Lucy, I usually say, well, say hi to your mom. And sometimes I say, give her my blessing. And so through Lucy, I've gotten to know her, she's gotten to know me, and we pass on some very heartfelt feelings. And I got to thinking, you know, there are so many families who are suffering, and I'm going to share a story before I'm done. And so many veterans who are home and lonely, and we don't even have to know them to be their friend. If we have a friend of a friend of a friend, and we hear that they have a friend who is a vet, how easy is it to say, tell your friend that I, Sam, Sue, George, Mike, am thinking of them and will pray for them. Can you imagine hearing 5 times a day from friends that 5 other people who you don't even know are thinking about you and praying for you? Well, they might be atheists. Who cares? I have met a lot of atheists in my life, and I'll say, I'll pray for you, and say, well, Bruce, you know I don't believe in that, but thanks anyways. I mean, that's who I am. We got to be who we are. So that's how simple it is to be frightened. But I want to take this one step farther from not just our deceased soldiers. I've been doing a lot of reading about our soldiers who have post-traumatic stress disorder. For many years, we didn't know what that was. We didn't know what to classify. But for at least the last 20 years, we have accepted, the psychologists around the world, the medical departments around the world, recognize post-traumatic stress disorder as an official disease. No different than cancer, no different than any liver disease. It is a disease. It's a curable disease. It's a disease that people can get over and get on with life and have great lives and happy lives. But with everything I've been reading, sadly, there is very little to no coordination. Our military has not done anything to coordinate the East Coast and the West Coast. So the help they're getting at one end or the other is completely different. They don't know how best. There's no treatment that anybody has agreed on